Welcome to another episode of Metal Dude. We've kind of revamped things, changed things around. We've even brought in a co-host. Please welcome Mick Rotella, basically the Batman to my Robin.
Thank you very much.
What's going on, sir?
It's great to be here, love.
Where'd you come from?
Do you want me to go that far back?
Sort of, yeah.
Where did I come from? That's kind of a top question there, man. Since we've known each other, I've been playing around the cities and stuff like that. That's
Right.
kind of how we met. We're got mutual friends through lots of different people, like Mr. Jameson from they call themselves the good bars, but that's kind of the mediocre bars, really. At least that's what I like to say. But we've been friends for a while, so lots of stuff in common. So I'm not exactly sure why you asked me on the show, but I'm fine with that.
No, everything stemming from working on the Suicide Prevention and Awareness album. Working with you on this close, I realized we hung out, 3 hours each time?
Yeah.
Half hour talking about the album for 2.5
Yeah.
hours talking about everything and anything, 80s, 90s, millennium, hard rock, metal, punk.
Star Wars.
Star Wars has been in there, yep.
And actually, before we even started that project, I wrote your theme music
Yep.
for you.
Yep, the original, for the original,
Yep.
was it 8 episodes, I think, of the original
Yep.
Metal Dude. You
Yep.
got that, and now working on this. Basically what this is, it's kind of revamped from before. Still going to showcase original bands and that, but we're also going to talk about metal through the history, everything from Black Sabbath up to Lamb of God, from Kiss to Mastodon. Name it, we're probably going to cover it. So with that, tonight we're going to be talking about Dokken. Everybody remembers Dokken from the 80s.
Yes, one of my favorite bands of all time. George Lynch, Jeff, Mick, Don. Yeah. No, that's not true. They actually were one of my favorite bands. I really contemplated, I think when they were in their heyday, whether they were my favorite band or not. And,
It was one of those bands that it was, the four of them together was great. And it was taking the 80s metal. I don't know if it's taken it a step further than like what Van Halen had done, with George Lynch, taking a step further what Eddie did or whatnot. George had been around for a while, even before this.
Yeah.
But it was one of those bands that I always liked, always followed, and it just never, for whatever reason, they were always kept down, never went up.
I think if you listen to a lot of their stuff, it was. I hate to use the term poppy, but it seemed like they were a little bit more concerned with being a popular band, as Van Halen I don't think necessarily did. I think they just were what they were,
Right.
and people love that stuff. So their harder rock and stuff, which is kind of what they kind of got into in their later part of their career. Had they stayed together, I think they probably would have really busted a lot bigger than they did. But everything that they did to me up until, let's say, 1988, which was their last full record together, I think I loved it all. It was just great.
That was what, Back for the Attack? Was
Back
88?
for the Attack.
I thought it was later than that.
Was it? Well, I thought it was 88 that came out. No, actually that came out in 87, and Beast from the East came out in 88. And I think they were around just a hair longer than that, and then they called it quits. So.
Right.
But just a phenomenal band. And I guess, I never thought about the comparison to Van Halen, but I think you're probably right on the money with that.
With that, I always heard Quiet Riot got thrown into that. What do you call it? That
kind of
whatever.
Grouping. Yeah. Their only problem there is, and I love Quiet Riot, but their guitar power was not as much as Van Halen and obviously Dokken. Although, to their credit, their first guitar player was Randy Rhoads. So
that's what I was going to ask you. We're talking post Randy, right?
Yeah, you gotta definitely make that division about post Randy or whatever. But even those first two records that they released, they weren't quite as strong as obviously Ozzy and Randy did, and Quiet Riot did later on. But who knows what they would have done had they all been together, and stayed together. So,
What, bringing up Ozzy and Randy Rhoads, wasn't it? What's the rumor? Something I always heard. George Lynch was supposed to have it, or it was tied with Randy. They were going back and forth. Or...
You know, what I had originally heard was when Randy passed away, they went through a swell of guitar players, you know, and they wanted somebody permanent. And what I had always heard was right before Jake, it came down to George Lynch, and they actually offered him the job. And I remember reading someplace where he was on a plane going to England, learning the songs as they were going. But I heard from George himself, who was, you know, damn near, you know, close as we are, said that no, it actually came down to him and Randy. And Randy got the gig. And how he told it to me was that he was at a bar, and Randy came in and says, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is I got the Ozzy gig. The good news is now you're going to be taking my spot at my mom's music store as a guitar teacher when I leave. And,
oh, no.
You know, and I guess they were, what I had read is they were kind of acquaintances, but really he kind of told it like they were really fair friends, you know. So I don't know. You know, now I don't know really which one to believe. I know George said that, but, you know, those were in the heyday, so who knows, you know, what he remembers, you know what I mean? So, who knows?
Well, yeah, I mean, with Dokken, you got the inner soap opera between Don and George.
That's really what it came down to, wasn't it? And that, you know, there's another thing that he told me was the reason that they did not get back together. They were supposed to get back together and tour the world about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It came down to Don. Don said, "It's my name. I deserve more of the money." And of course, they were all just like, "Hey, man, we're all equals. We all did this," and so they just decided to let it go, which is a shame, man, because you know everybody else has come back. I really would have loved to seen Dokken again. You
right.
know?
It's one band I don't think I ever saw. And then I kept watching it, you know, now jump on YouTube and watch all these all the live bootlegs. I shouldn't say bootlegs, probably.
I don't know, is there a
videos
politically
online.
correct term for that these days?
Yeah, you know.
Downloads.
Exactly. But then, like, didn't everybody but Don go out and they started or tried to do something called, was it Tooth and Nail? After.
Yeah, you're right. They were going to do that, and now I can't remember why they said that they did do that, I think, for a little while, and I don't remember who sang.
I think I saw this on that other show that we dare not bear its name. That TMS show.
Yes. Well, maybe that's where I'm getting my information from.
God, I hope not. Should I start whining? UFO is the greatest band in the world.
But yeah, he said I think they went out for a little while, and then you know the thing about George is he's into. It seems like he's into something awesome, and it works out cool, and then he's on to the next thing. You know,
right.
I mean, so and now he's playing with KXM with Doug Pinnick
right.
from King's X, and that is a phenomenal CD, by the way. That's I think the best thing he's done since Lynch Mob.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's part of the problem. Is his attention span is worse than mine, to be honest with you. You know.
Well, they keep Dokken's like gotten back together, split up, gotten back together, split up, gotten back together, split up, at least 3 times, I think. I'm not positive.
And more than that. And, you know, there's been so many people in that band. Honestly, I'm surprised I'm not in it at one point, you know, to be, you know. Maybe I'll get a call next week, I don't know.
Who's the new guitar player? You were telling me earlier.
I think I'm probably going to get his name wrong, but I want to say it's like Barry or John Levine, which happens to be Don Dokken's lawyer. You know, and he's good. He's really good. He really nails George's sound and his playing. But you know, it's another episode we'll talk about Kiss and Tommy Thayer. But it doesn't matter how good you do the copy, man. It's still a copy. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And I haven't listened to their last couple records, so I don't know. You know what they're doing.
He's a lawyer moonlighting as a guitar player. It's kind of scary.
Well, so is he getting paid double? Is he getting the lawyer end of it and the guitar end of it? I don't understand how that works. I'm not sure, but yeah. So, and as far as the rest of the band, I couldn't tell you who the other guys are right now. You know, I think Mick Brown still plays with them.
I think so.
But Mick kind of goes back and forth because I've seen him in Lynch Mob and then I've seen him in Dokken. So I don't know where where he lies. So he's a great guy too.
What would you say the big claim to fame for Dokken is? Is it being mentioned in what is it, Heavy Metal Parking Lot, or having the song for Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Oh, dude, totally the Nightmare on Elm Street. I wouldn't say that's her claim to fame, but I think that was.
Or the big outside of music kind of thing.
Yeah, it would definitely be that. I mean, how cool was it in that video when George Lynch is playing the skull guitar and Freddie busts through the wall and grabs him? I mean, I think I was 16 when that came out, and I totally was just like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. You know, I want that. You know, I want that guitar. Yeah, I'd have to say that video. I mean, because still to this day, that song is just immensely popular.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, are they still making
huge.
movies?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think they rehashed it and brought it back.
Oh yeah, you're right.
They redid it, did put new people in it and whatnot.
That's right.
There's a new Freddy Krueger. What's his name? Isn't doing it anymore. Name
You know what?
escapes
As a
me.
matter of fact, I did see that. I did see that movie. As a matter of fact.
The new one.
Yeah, I did. I don't remember where I saw it for.
The thing I love with Heavy Metal Parking Lot is all the guys are there to see Priest, and every girl they interview is like, I'm here for Dokken.
Well, you know, that was kind of their appeal.
Yeah.
You know, you had the girls. It was kind of the perfect storm for them because you had the girls that really dug the band, and the guys really were there to see like George.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's, you know, kind of your parallel about Van Halen.
Right.
You know, Dave and
Dave had the
Eddie.
girls, and Eddie had the guys.
Yeah, and so, you know, I think you're right on that. You know, and you know, but let's be honest. I mean, George is sexy as crap. So you know. He's, I mean, he still looks good. The guy's like 62 years old, and
Right.
he looks better now than I did ever, to be honest with you. You know? I mean, but the guy's just like, he's like really buff and tan. I think I saw him, it was like in January, and the guy looked like, you know, he just stepped out of a suntan booth, you know.
Still built like a brick shit house.
He is, man.
Whoops.
Completely is.
That's fine. And then him and Don were on the hearing aid thing,
Yes.
which will come up probably in a future episode. We'll talk about that. I mean, how much talent can you get in one room?
You know, I kind of wonder if you could do anything like that these days. You know, everybody's so money and you know, lawyer driven. I don't know that you could get that many current people in a room without, you know, having a lot of conflict and you know,
Yeah.
it'd just be kind of weird. And there really wasn't too many bands that were not represented there. I know Kiss wasn't, but I do remember there was something going on where they couldn't do it, but they did put a song. I think they did a live version of Rock and Roll Night and put it on that soundtrack.
Ended up on it, yeah.
And I think it was special for that disc as well. But yeah, I mean, the guitar firepower on that, you know, the vocals. I mean, Jeff Tate and Rob Halford alone were kind of worth the price of admission beyond Dio and everybody else. I mean, it was incredible, you know. And it kind of gets overshadowed by a lot of other things. People forget about that, and then when you watch it again, how great that really is. And the song was good. And remember the radio edit they had of it?
Oh, yeah.
It was like the solos were like maybe the whole thing was like 20 seconds, and I'm like, Yngwie's not even in there, you know?
Well, the song's, what, 7-8 minutes long?
Yeah.
I've seen two versions, one without the intro, one with the intro.
You got to have the intro, man.
We're with Dio and that. But stepping back with background to Dokken, they're huge in Europe, they're huge in Japan. They never seem to headline an arena tour here, I believe. Any idea why? Or what's your take on why it
You know,
didn't blow up like it should have?
I think, you know, the interesting difference between bands now as opposed to bands then is you had, it took kind of a long time for bands to kind of come up and get big, you know. If you look at Van Halen, their first record came out in '78, and they were headlining shows before that. They really didn't get real big till 1984, you know, right when Roth left, essentially. So they kind of had this it was a slow draw up to the top, but then they seemed to stay there for a while, you know. And with Dokken, I think they kind of were getting up there, but then they decided to quit right at their apex, and you know.
Everything broke down.
Yeah, and I think if they would have gone one more record, one more tour, I totally believe they would have been on a headlining tour, and they could have made it. Now the weird thing is when they did break up by '88, I mean metal obviously was still popular, but let's be honest, they all kind of had a date. The whole grunge thing was on its way. So, but I believe they would have at least headlined a tour or two. But like I've read so many times before them, you just cannot force bad chemistry. And Don and George just couldn't see eye to eye, didn't get along, and just called it quits.
I remember seeing all those yearly lists in like Circus. Anybody remember Circus magazine?
I used to buy it every month, man. I used to go down my essay down the street and
Hit Parader.
Yep. Cream.
Cream.
Kerrang.
But they always had, it was funny for like 3 or 4 years. I think it was like, one of them had like, the next big thing, the most underrated and whatnot. And Dokken was always number 1 in all of this. But, well, I tell you what, that'll bring us to a new segment we're going to do. We're calling it High Five. We hate top 5 lists. Top 5 lists are stupid. We're just doing High Five.
Bam!
Something new. We're going to try, see how it goes, see where it lands. 5 great George Lynch solos.
Wow. To me...
Really throw you off the mark here.
Yeah, well, I'm you guys don't know I'm a guitar player, and I was really... Kiss was really the reason I started playing music, but George Lynch was really the one that really kind of thrust me forward. It's hard for me to pick out just 5. I could pick out like 50. I love the guy so much. But when I listen, I would have to say what he did on Kiss of Death was just phenomenal. Mr. Scary, obviously, just unbelievable. Probably one of the most memorable things he ever did was Alone Again. I mean, I know it was kind of a pop ballad, but just what he did with it just was like really, bam, right there,
right.
He's got a lot, a long career, but I keep kind of going back to the '80s because that's really where I was with him, first. Again, what was one of the great videos they had? In My Dreams, that one. Just his left hand work on that song was phenomenal. And he's got one off of one of his solo records called Tierra del Fuego. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But
who says burning like a flame?
I'm not even going to argue with you, to be honest with you. It's so great. But I would probably be happy with that 5. But if I think about it, I'd probably be pulling all kinds of obscure stuff, But I'd be happy with that list,
I used to always watch the It's Not Love video.
Oh, God, I love that.
And when the camera's going along the flatbed of the truck, there's a guy that looks like me with this white hat on. He used to point it out to everybody, like, hey, look, I was in this video. I was like, what?
Well,
That's not you. I was like, yeah, look at it. You can't tell it's all blurry and it goes by so fast.
Well, I was in L.A. at that time,
Right, I was visiting my cousin. Yeah.
He was part of the production company that made that video. Or, no, he's a caterer.
Yep, exactly.
You could always get by with that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go with Mr. Scary for sure.
Yeah.
Make the booth happy, burning like a flame. Yeah. It's Not Love for me. Yeah, In My Dreams. I don't know, just throw in a 5th one. Yeah.
I think if I look back at my favorite videos of all time, It's Not Love and that might be one of my favorite, like top 2. And
I liked it for a long time, but then it just got overplayed and I got tired of it.
That seems to be the one that they play the most, like when they play those videos.
Right.
It's always like that one. I mean, In My Dreams too. I mean, I love that one as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not so fond of Breaking the Chains. Don's little outfit's a little too short for me to watch closely. Or maybe I've watched it too close. I don't know.
He's got this huge pirate shirt.
Yeah. But what's the video that they got with the helicopter in the background, the explosions for no reason?
Dog.
You know what I'm talking about?
I can't. Oh, it's off tooth.
Just Got Lucky, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
They must, back then they must have just said, okay, we're gonna put you on a mountain, and there's gonna be lava everywhere for no reason. You know, we do it, love. It's gonna be great. And they just went, all right, cool. You
Like
know?
Slash walking out of a big church, and then all of a sudden it's small and he's in the middle of a desert.
Or how about the one where he's just all of a sudden there's water and boom, up comes Slash out of the water. You know, I mean, and we look at those things and we go, that is awesome. But as you get older and you look at that and you're like, I don't know why that was that way. You know, why did we have to do that? It's like we had walking through a warehouse and all there is sparks. That's all they made.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Flames and sparks. You know, and I never did get why bands have to play on a mountain for no reason. And there's no gear. It's always just like their guitar and they're just kind of singing. And I don't understand that. As a musician, I've never wanted to go up to a mountain and just let's start singing. You know, I don't know.
Axl Rose talking to dolphins.
Yeah, you know, on that particular video, they just must have went, hey, you know what we should do? There must have been a lot of sentences starting with that. You know what we should do? I'm going to dive off an oil tanker, and then my shoes are going to fall to the bottom of the ocean, you know? And they went, yeah, that's great. And then I'm going to race this car down and drive off it, you know? I mean, it must be great to have that kind of, you know, where people just don't question your judgment.
We should stop talking about Guns N' Roses because somebody's going to get mad at us because he's going to be a guest eventually. We got a guest coming up eventually. We're going to talk about Guns N' Roses with him, so stay tuned for that eventually. It'll probably be sometime in August. He'll come on, but we can't talk about GNR anymore. He'll get mad probably. You guys are talking about Guns N' Roses. Where am I?
Yeah, no doubt. Or we'll get sued by Guns N' Roses for some reason. I don't know.
True, yeah. Was there a lawyer playing guitar for him?
Maybe. At least we didn't name the show Chinese Democracy.
Right.
You know, that would have been a problem.
Yes.
We'd have been gotten texts and mails and calls and all kinds of things. Like, I gotta change the dang show.
How are we on time? We're good?
Which is good.
Got time to kill. I'm drawing a blank here. The one weird thing is Dokken never had an icon, mascot.
Mascot, did they? No. Well, I think it was their logo. Well, I think
way
they
it's
tried to do
done.
that thing where they had the hand coming out. I think,
Oh.
it was that tooth and nail.
Yeah.
It was just, I think their mascot was their logo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which was a pretty cool logo.
Or I'd put it George's skeleton guitar.
Yeah. Well, I think that was kind of the conflict in the band is because I think George was way more popular than Don, and Don did not like that.
Yeah, but Don had the name. I mean, come on. You know, Don was obviously popular because when they say Dokken, they're talking about Don. They're not talking about George.
Yeah.
Then
yeah.
Lynch Mob comes out, and then it's like, oh.
Well, did you ever read that, like, when they broke up and Lynch was like, I can't stand being in bands that have the so-and-so's name in them. I never do that again. And then the very next band is, hey, it's Lynch Mob. You must have, somebody
it
must have
wasn't
been in a
Lynch.
meeting and said, listen, love, you've got name recognition. We've got to capitalize on that. And he probably just said, fine. I mean, it totally has to be that. You know what I mean? So, but, I think it might have been the same thing with Van Halen, too. I think,
Right.
Roth was a little put off by how popular Eddie was, But as we stand back,
Then
you
he
got to look
left.
at these guys were icons, man. How could you try to hold that back, I mean, so who knows? They just couldn't play nice, I always just thought, if you're making that much money, you're that popular, just meet on stage, go your separate ways, get your own tour buses, your own groupies and piles of coke, and just don't worry about it. Because I certainly have got people at my work that I try to avoid every day, and I'm not making, millions of dollars.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't know why these guys can't play nice, and I wish they really could. I mean, and almost everybody has, but like we said, except for Dokken.
Right. Well, and Kiss now, but again, that's for another episode.
Well, you could make the argument that they did a couple times,
Right.
on that one. But again, that's a whole separate. Yeah, that's probably not even one episode. We've got to break that down into like a dozen of them. I mean, because we know Kiss fans, including me, that's like a religion. You know what I mean? So there'll be lots to break down and talk about with them.
Right.
So
Well, everybody, thank you for bearing with us. Stay tuned for next episode. We're going to find out if Mick is American or English.
Who knows?
Are your horns up? Take care, gentlemen and ladies.